To me, that crucifix wasn't offensive at all. Rather, my friends, it became indescribably beautiful to me. The cross is the cross that Jesus promised that none of us will ever be deserted in our lives. It is the promise that none of the wounds that we bear will be borne alone. It is the promise that none of the failures we experience in our life will be just our failures. In that weekend of Christian community, I heard the stories of Christians who had come to realize in their life that Jesus Christ was not some faraway person they read about. What we learned was that Jesus is the one who walks every step of the path with you. He is the one who knows you best. Jesus is the one who loves you most. By the end of the second night, it occurred to me that I might be able to know Jesus in that same way also. You see, he touched me. On that weekend, Jesus touched me. I learned two things that are now etched into the fabric of my spiritual life. I learned how important it is to be forever immersed in community with Christians who dare to share their very lives with each other. And I learned that Jesus is the partner who will never leave his flock because he touches us. On the third day of that weekend, I came back from break, and on the table that I was sitting, I found a little laminated card resting on top of my notebook. Curiously, I picked it up, and I share with you this morning what it said. One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him, and the other belonged to Jesus. When the last scenes of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened to be at the very lowest and very saddest times of his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned Jesus about it. And Jesus said, "You walked with me all the way of my life, but I noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why. When I needed you most, you would leave me." Jesus replied, "My precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, that's when I carried you. I was touching you." So this morning, I ask you, look back over the scenes of your life. Do you see the painful and troublesome times? Do you see those times when you weren't sure if you were going to make it? Do you remember the saddest times of your life when you thought your heart was going to break? The one set of footprints you see in the sand during those most difficult times belonged to Jesus. It was during those times that he was carrying you, touching you. So this morning, my friends, when you look at the crucifix, know that Jesus walks every step of your life with you. He is always present in your life. And I ask you, why? Why does sensing the presence of Jesus matter? We are very good in our life at understanding the physical, the economical, the emotional, psychological, and social realms of our lives. But we don't understand the spiritual at all. And my friends, I say to you this morning, that is too bad. Because the physical, economical, psychological, and social, those realms are only limited and temporary. But the spiritual realms is unlimited and eternal. The full potential of human life rest in the spiritual. That's why the spiritual presence of Jesus is important to you. Every person here probably wants to be something more, something better than they are. When Jesus comes to stand beside you, my friends, you are more, you are better. He touches you. Have you, I ask you this morning, have you ever had that strange and somewhat eerie feeling that Jesus was really near to you? Do you sense that Jesus himself is standing beside you in some critical moment perhaps? In some moments of hurt or pain or loss, or perhaps some moments of quiet meditation and reflection? Have you had that sense that Jesus is right there with you, standing beside you, touching you? It is recorded in the 20th chapter of John. The disciples were gathered in the upper room in a secret meeting place with behind closed doors. The doors were locked because they were afraid that the authorities who had arrested, tried, and executed Jesus would do the same to them. The text tells us that Jesus, in that room with the locked doors, stood among them. That, my friends, is the most awesome, extraordinary thought that one could ever enter into one's mind. That Jesus himself, who was crucified, who was dead, who was buried, Jesus himself come and stood among them. And my friends, I say to you this morning, he comes and he stands among us today. I believe that Jesus comes and stands among us every day because I was nothing before he touched me. Heartaches, broken pieces, a ruined life. His touch was what I longed for, and he gave new life to me. Oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know Jesus touched me and made me whole. Reach out, my friends. Reach out this morning and touch a life. Amen.
Our communion hymn this morning is 504.